didn't understand it very well. That's okay.
English because you can't afford.
Aaron, I know Mjisha is watching us from Barara City and says, thanks for the show. Opondo should shed some more light. The public would like to understand circumstances under which the police allowed prayers to continue inside Pastor Kayanja's church while detonating a bomb outside the same church or scene without thinking about if terrorists had also entered the church. Why do police rush to disclose all details in such sensitive scenarios and in a very short period of time, as if they are trying to? Does the Uganda People's Defense Forces account for the resources being spent on Operation Shujaa in the Democratic Republic of Congo? And last, he says, interestingly, let's also interrogate why there is a feeling of many Ugandans not being convinced that the terror threats are existing. That's from Aaron in Mbarara. Let me also take a message from Laban Mohabwe. Laban says there is what we call diversionary method of work in terrorism by attacking soft targets and hype the situation so that soldiers are withdrawn from the DRC where they are facing dangerous fire. That's from Laban in Chitagata. Edgar, you wanted to conclude something on the theory you're stringing together from the situation in Sudan, Khartoum, to Darfur, to the Central African Republic, to the Democratic Republic of Congo, to the unexploded IEDs in Kampala. Yes. It's about you're thinking there is a string that's tying those together. I didn't see the president paint that string that way.
The terrorism is financed from elsewhere. The monies come from elsewhere. And I'm giving you the logistical supply lines of some of these funds, is what I'm telling you. Now,
so it is your assertion that Sudan is still involved?
Not Sudan as a state, not as a state sponsor of what? Of terrorism, but what do you call them? The
different players.
The different players, the actors in the violence there.
Hassan al-Turabi was the financier, yes, before.
Yes, he was a financier of this. But you see, he led a certain ideology, and that ideology is still alive there. Extreme fundamentalist Islam. And the same, you know, the Serika rebels. Same formation.
Everybody on the table here, Edgar, says that it is one point of agreement among everybody on the table here is that, yes, the terrorism threat is real and Uganda is affected.
Yes.
But that is not beyond being exploited by politics and especially the government in power.
And my assertion is that it's being exploited by the politicians, the political elite. Across the political divide. Now, when it comes to the world over, when it comes to security agencies, intelligence agencies, there's always that rivalry and withholding information from the other agency. And when it comes to this part of the world where funds, budgeting, public financing, is the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, and he has a look at the what do they call? The books of accounts, the one that there are the others, classified expenditure. He looks there, he's not allowed to disclose, but he knows what is happening. And he knows how this budgeting allocation is made. So there are those organizations that may be starved of money, and they need to make their presence felt that they need more funding come to them. Now, that rivalry always exists.
Is he not agreeing with us now?
No, I'm saying, no, that rivalry does happen, and sometimes they hype. Sometimes they hype some of these things. But
and
also,
can they also create?
There was a message that the Honorable Bobby Wine put out on Twitter that he has been informed by a Western embassy that his life
was in danger.
Is in danger. And everybody has let the statement pass. He has not been called to account for that statement. Now, for a person like me who's from business, who advises on political risk.
Should he be called to account, or the security agencies take up the message
Honorable
and take
Bobby
measures?
Wine is the leader of the biggest
and take measures
Uganda, much
to guarantee his
FDC
safety.
of the Honorable Semuju Nganda. He has the leader of the government of the opposition in parliament. This is a very heavy statement. Yes. He should be held to the same standards as the people he's opposing on the other side.
My question is, doesn't the job then shift, the responsibility shift to security agencies to guarantee his safety? If he says, I feel I'm in danger, do you demand that, because he says he feels he's in danger, do you demand that then he goes ahead to explain to himself?
No, it's the responsibility and duty of government to provide security to all of us.
Okay. Mr. Fonopondo,
and if government is running away from that responsibility, these honorable MPs have to call them to order and call them.
You're placing the responsibility on Bobby Wine.
They can guarantee the security of anybody else, apart from us in our rallies. And you know, I said, by the way, right,
that is actually an abdication of responsibility.
Because they are actually our biggest source of insecurity.
Pardon?
I said.
You're the biggest source of insecurity?
No. Now pay attention. This is what they said. When Kuraije said they cannot guarantee our security in our rallies, I said, yes, it is understandable, because you're our biggest source of insecurity. I mean, you just flash back in the elections, how many Ugandans they were shooting at our rallies. So our biggest source of insecurity is actually some of these indisciplined army and police officers. Of course, that does not take away the agreement that there are some dignified men and women in uniform who pay a huge price.
Who pay allegiance to the Republic of Uganda.
Yes, to the Republic, and not to the politician in State House. But I want to say it bigger than that. Who pay a big price to keep us secure. Those ones exist there, and we love them. Now, these reckless ones who feel that they belong, they give their allegiance to a particular political party or to a particular individual, are those ones that can afford to say, we will not guarantee your security. I met a gentleman who had tenants of an international organization. When somebody wanted to buy the man's building, he said, can we buy it? He said, I'm not selling. The next thing was to say, to write to the organization, renting the building, and said, we can no longer guarantee your security in those premises. And the tenant had to leave. And you know the next thing that came? Taxes. So, if somebody says, I cannot guarantee your security, they are telling us, abandon your project of running around the country.
Let me ask production to find, studio to find, production to find those videos. One of the statement by Ssegona Lubega in front of Parliament, and the one by the one by Brigadier General Felix Kuraije. If you can find them and play them back. Yes, a quick one, and then I'll come to you.
You see, the trouble with Edgar is that he profiles himself as a neutral person.
Really?
He works with government. He has told you how many times he's gone to State House for meetings. Yet when he comes here, he says, I am a business person doing this and this. By distancing himself from government, then he begins attacking everybody as if he's a... In all this that Edgar is saying, I want him to tell me how either the state or myself or anyone else should hold someone who has sounded an alarm that there is a threat to his life. Because he says, Bob Wine must be held accountable for his statement. So tell us, how do you want to hold him accountable?
Call him to account. Call him to account. I mean, substantiate. He said his life is under threat. He's a leader of an opposition party. And honestly, even the government side, everybody is quiet. The Minister for Security is not even called to make a statement on the floor of Parliament.
Because they've been unmasked.
The Honorable Semuji is always calling the Right Honorable Prime Minister to account for Mabati, to account for this and that, to account for this and that expenditure. For God's sake, put it on. That's how a democracy operates. That's how our parliamentary system operates. Call them to account. I mean, this is a grave allegation, Mr.
I think Edgar has a point.
Mr. Mpaji. Honestly, we are not realizing,
let me give you my
and whether
support.
or not you believe I'm neutral or not, a matter to do with terrorism, a matter to do with a leading opposition figure being fingered for assassination is not something that we should just sit back and and start
let's hear from Honorable
engaging
Ssegona.
in sophistry.
Yes, I'm going to give you time, sir.
Listen, I agree with Edgar that, yes, I agree with Edgar that when somebody, forget about a leading opposition person, when somebody raises an alarm that my life is in danger, there is a threat onto my life, the state should pick interest. I think Edgar is only failing in expressing and putting across his point. What he wants to say is that a responsible government would be interested. Now, the way they present it and the way he wants to advise them to present it is that, one, summon him to police or you arrest him.
No, not
yes.
No.
And
quite the contrary.
Oh, okay.
Quite the contrary.
And Kyagulanyi has a background to this
yeah.
because the state has targeted his life before. What's your
suggestion?
This same state has targeted his life before. You saw what they did to him in Arua. At some point, they actually thought they had succeeded in killing him. You saw in elections, they targeted him. He narrowly survived. They almost shot him. And it is all over, it's public information. Of course, the state would not pick interest in that, one, because probably he has unmasked them. Two, because they know they have a history against his life.
Let's get a phone up.
Hold it, rather than the state itself.
Hold it, Edgar.
Where do I draw the boundary?
The two gentlemen, let's have Fonopondo. He's been silent when you hijacked
if
the opportunity. If
they were just actors, were they arrested?
Honorable Ssegona, you hijacked the opportunity from Fonopondo. Let him use. Let him respond to the questions that were put to him specifically. Do you want me to read them back to you, Mr. Fonopondo?
Well, I may try to recall some, but I earlier on said the politicking we are in, we are damned as government if we don't, we are damned if we do. And so, the jury is out there. We who are debating are not the only jury. The entire country
is debating.
Good enough, there are solid evidence of the last 37, you can even stretch back to 79, when Museveni first came into this city as a leader of government.
First as a rebel.
No, as a leader in 79 of government, as Minister of Defense. Yes, he could have made misstatements or missteps, but what is the dominant feature of his life? In my view and in the judgment of many Ugandans, that's why they have supported him all this time and supported his line, is that the dominant feature is of protection, of security, wishing everybody well, mistakes made notwithstanding. Some of the mistakes made by the state itself, some of the mistakes made by individuals, and I said earlier on, our lack as government of explaining, like the incident of Ssegona, Mayiga, Namboze, where you arrest them, take them up to individual, wherever you go around with them in the country, you say you are going to pick evidence, you hold them for 3 years, and eventually the case dies out. Yes, in a judicial way, maybe we withdraw, but remain quiet. But these people keep making these allegations, and nobody goes to pick this file, probably because the system hasn't become sensitive to it, to give proper explanation account why they suspected Ssegona, charged him in court, and eventually the case fizzles. I think we need to do much better than that. I earlier on also spoke about misspeaking. I didn't listen to General Kuleje, my brother. I think I was in test that last week. He's not among those who misspeaks frequently. Now, it is possible he could have misspoke.
It's not an Enanga.
Enanga, I said Enanga and Onyango usually paint with a thick brush, even when they have the facts. And that's why I said we need to communicate better. How do we package communication for public on a sensitive matter like this without creating pandemonium, but also without creating doubt in the message and the messenger? That probably we are doing it for ulterior motives. Now, I want to agree with Edgar, but he's failing to put his point. Kyagulanyi, even when you say he was suspected, he was framed, he was tear gassed during the campaign, as a leader, as a Ugandan, he owes himself an obligation When he picks a clue to report, to authorize the authority, the police of Uganda, the Ministry of Security, the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and he says, this is what I have received. I don't have much evidence, but please, pick it from here and take forward. In any case, even when he has been roughened up politically, it is still the state of Uganda that is providing him with security. Notwithstanding, for example, that in this current tours NUP is making, we know, we have seen, and those of you who are not, there is a specific American embassy vehicle of public affairs that has been with him, trailing him. Notwithstanding. If they're the ones who have provided him with that information, he wants to keep it confidence. Or
maybe they're gathering their own information.
Yeah. If it is they or any other person, he owes himself an obligation as a leader to go to the right offices of government and say, this is what I have picked, take it from there. I know you have not been treating me well, but this is the information I've given you. If you don't want to...
Shouldn't the government...
No, I think, first of all, it should be him.
Yes.
But two, the state should take interest. When the state takes interest, often it will not come to the public and it says, we have picked the lead from what Ssegona has said, we're investigating. In any case, Honorable Ssegona, should we come to your rallies and we pick one person and we say that we suspect or we have some information that he's a dangerous person in your crowd, chances are you will not believe, you will say it is meant to harass, to intimidate and so on. And so maybe sometimes the police, the security people will not go that direction. They will do things quietly. Now, at least I have the benefit. I have the benefit from where I sit. I think I'm one of the privileged people because I speak to politicians in the opposition in confidence. We are colleagues. I speak with security horizontally. I speak with the police, all elements of police. I'm privy to information of CMI, of ISO, those that are of need to know basis, if I want.
Even embassies.
Even embassies, if I want. I'm one of those who will sit with an American political affairs, British, they come and they ask me several questions. I'm privileged. I have researchers like them who will send me questionnaire or who will even come and we discuss. So I am privileged to information. What am I simply saying? I'm saying there is credible evidence of not just threats, but things that have happened.
Okay.
Now, the onus is on you, who the government has given information, to doubt it, put it in the dustbin, and continue behaving as if the situation is normal.
Another question, Mr. Fonopondo, would be,
however,
how
there's a point at which government will not allow you to behave as if it is normal.
Okay.
I want to answer the question of somebody who said the church.
Yes, Aaron, I know.
Usually good operatives will come and neutralize a threat, quite often without actually telling you that we neutralized a threat, and they will go away. And therefore, in that church, if they retrieved the devices without exploding, they will go and neutralize away from the church, depending on how they have judged the distance of safety. If it is safe to detonate 10 meters, 100 meters away from the church or from the city, without evacuating, they will do so.
The complaints from the political opposition
seem
to have fair context. Ssegona tells you, more than 15 years ago, him and his colleagues were arrested, accused of activities that link to treason?
Actually, treason and terrorism.
Treason and terrorism.
Yeah.
15 years down the road, they haven't been prosecuted. Number two.
Yes.
You had widespread arrests of supporters of National Unity Platform heading into and around the period of the elections of 2021.
Nominations, actually.
Around the elections of 2021. 3 years down the road, no conviction, no case concluded. Some of them are still in jail. So when these suspicions emerge, when these suspicions emerge, Are they without context?
No, but I think our moderator, it seems you haven't been listening to me attentively.
My understanding of English is problematic.
I gave you examples.
Yes.
I'm the one who first gave you the example of the trio of the Ssegonas. I gave you the example of Besigye. You remember Besigye even ran out of this country on 17 September 2001 after his election. After Poka disappeared. Besigye was linked to PPR in the Congo. You remember PRA? You remember the group that General Kale Kayihura then dismantled from in Pandroma in the Congo, and Besigye fled. When he came back, he was arrested. You remember that arrest in Ssegona? And charged with the treason and many other things.
Actually, rape.
Treason, rape, and rape.
The treason charge was taken to Machindi, you remember?
No. So I'm saying,
he was
yes, I am saying, and not just him, there have been many other people. You remember the case of General Moses Sali? You remember the case of Honorable Maratubo and the 18 politicians from northern Uganda? They were like 3 ministers, Dr. Okulo, Ambrose, Minister of Agriculture, State Minister of State
Deputy Minister for Public Service.
Has never returned in this country.
Ambrose Okulo.
Bishop Ogwad never returned from this country. I'm saying in that context, from that time, including the things that have been happening in piecemeal, sometimes some of them are small, on small people.
And this one we
some of them are big. Now,
big people.
If somehow along the state discovers that they don't have sufficient evidence, or they were even misled, because it is possible for intelligence to be misled. It is possible for intelligence to use Tony Blair's phrase, sexed up.
No, sometimes intelligence information cannot stand the legal test of evidential value.
Intelligence is sexed up. You remember on Iraq, Ssegona says nobody has been convicted. I'm not sure if we have had anybody convicted of treason.
It was only one conviction of...
in the history of Uganda.
There was only one conviction, but it was reversed on appeal. Professor Isaac Newton.
Yes, but I'm saying...
And reversed on a technicality.
Yeah, now I'm saying the fact that we don't have many cases of treason convictions, does it mean actually that there are no people who out there who are conspiring to remove a government without... through unconstitutional means?
The lack of evidence is not the absence of it.
Yes. Now I am saying all those are possible. The onus is on the side of government. If you have withdrawn a case for whatever reason, at whatever stage, where we are, I think it is necessary to give some form of explanation, either through the judicial system or the political system.
Mr. Pagi, I have a radical approach to this.
Just a minute. Let him conclude his
through
submission.
investigative means. This is what I'm saying. It is no longer tenable that you withdraw a charge, particularly on a serious offense, and then you just drop it, and you expect that people will actually understand that Ssegona was not falsely accused, and so on and so forth. But I am simply saying, underlying finally on this statement, that whatever the opposition will want to say, whether we are doing this, the government is doing this, to muddy the waters for them. The evidence is available that this government, yes, we can make mistakes, but we usually own up. But most important, I said earlier at the beginning, that before Kyagulanyi started, before Noob started the countrywide tour, Americans are the ones in June who issued terror alert. They even said Uganda is not safe for travel. Please, our citizens, if you consider traveling to Uganda, take extra precaution if you cannot avoid coming to Uganda. It was followed, I think, 2 weeks later by the British. Are you telling me that Americans who appear to be glove in wool with Kyagulanyi, glove in hand with Kyagulanyi, were also scaring him from not having his political tours? Are you telling me that the British were also trying to stage manage so that Kyagulanyi, or indeed Ugandans, not to go about the activity? There would be no reason for the government of Uganda, those mistakes you are citing notwithstanding, to issue false terror alert, because it is not only affecting NUP, it's affecting tourism. It's affecting business.
The finance market.
It is affecting people who want to make investment decisions about Uganda. It's making both Ugandans and others. It is affecting people down the market. Can you imagine? The president today said, please try to check everyone who's entering the market. Imagine.
Check everyone who's going to church.
No, the churches are smaller entities. In 30 minutes, you are done. How about Owino Market, where people go in, go out from 4 a.m. until midnight? Others are bringing trucks of bales of clothes. Are you asking them, when we take those measures, are you asking them to pour all their merchants before or do we have infrared scanning capability in the country? Can you imagine inspecting everybody who's rushing to go to a taxi park for work, and you're asking the conductor, please.
To first check all of them.
Check their bag, because that's what the president has said.
I think you make a point there.
It cannot be that the alert is targeting NUP or political positions, because it is an inconvenience
to everybody.
Thank you. And there is no benefit for the government of Uganda.
Thank you for your message. I received it, and Juma Kadir, who's also watching us, I have had your message. I have Edgar and Honorable Ssemuju. I'll give you a minute.
I have a very radical approach to this. One is the responsibility and duty of the state to provide security for its citizens, be it Bobi Wine, be it Impagi, be it Tabaro, be the honorable members of parliament that are here. If the state comes up and says, we are unable to guarantee your security, that's an abdication of responsibility. And as citizens, we must hold this government to account. We must hold it to its duties and responsibility to the citizens of Uganda. So wherever Bobi Wine is going, Bobi Wine is a legitimate leader of an opposition party. He's doing legitimate business by organizing his political party, and therefore they should work out security arrangements that secure him and his supporters and the rest of us who are going about with our business. Two, when there are political questions, politicians should be called to dialogue and form a consensus. Political quarrels should be settled politically.
I'm still waiting for the radical approach. I'm still waiting for the radical one.
No, three.
The two you have stated are not radical yet.
President Museveni is known to engage in horse trading as far as politics is concerned. I don't know what is failing on this occasion. Who is failing to bring the two groups, whatever radicalized groups?
You listen to his suggestions.
I did listen to his speech. I was trying to drive here.
Thank you. Let's come to Honorable Ssemuju Nganda. And Businge John, thank you for watching. I've received your message. Yes, Honorable Ssemuju Nganda.
There are threats in Kenya of terrorism. They don't have the same debate like we have in Uganda. One of the stories I did in the Observer before I joined politics was a profile of former Katikkiro of Uganda, Joseph Mulwanyamuli Ssemwogere, who went to the same university as President Museveni. When Uganda was protesting the passage of the Land Act 1998 and vigorously mobilizing Baganda against it, Mr. Museveni calls Mulwanyamuli, who at the time of his call was attending prayers in Chibuli. They go to State House for a meeting. He arrived this time when Mr. Museveni was seated with all the security chiefs from Army Command, I think at that time, ISO and everybody. He threw a fire at Mulwanyamuli and said, Bukadef, you with Bukadef, you're organizing a rebellion. Mulwanyamuli is still living. You can go and ask him. So each time there is a mobilization of the population against or for something, Mr. Museveni will blackmail that effort by bringing a rebellion. I have told you during walk to work, when the Honorable Medrad represented me as a lawyer, my file in Nakawa, the investigative officer advised DPP to charge me with terrorism for walking from Chireka. They arrested me at Band. I told you eventually the DPP was wiser. They charged me with being a public nuisance. But
from terrorism.
But you can see that the recommendation. My lawyer is here. But the recommendation by the investigating officer was that they charge me with terrorism. So when we raise these issues, we don't raise them because we want to say terrorism.
Give you more information now from your lawyer who was a suspect in the Kayunga debacle.
No, but you know the DPP chose to go for public nuisance because
there was nothing.
After weighing the evidence, he found evidence for public nuisance, not terrorism.
Actually,
it's a joke. I withdraw it in good faith.
in my second predicament over Kayunga, they drafted a charge sheet of terrorism. That me, Lukwago, also had a charge sheet for terrorism. And the police forwarded it to the DPP. Now, in my case, in both cases, the DPP said no. There is no evidence, and the ingredients are not even alluded to. So what they did, they changed I will call it the heading for purposes of upon understanding it, but it is called the statement of offense. Now, from the statement of offense of terrorism, they put, in my case, inciting violence. No, sedition. For Lukwago, they put inciting violence. The particulars of the offense
were the same as
remained the same for terrorism.
Okay.
And as we were walking out, there is a very senior police officer who I think has since retired. He told me, my son, you know, in this country there is always a government. You're lucky today that the DPP is a professional man. On another occasion,
the DPP?
The Justice Butera, I will not fear to mention him for the good reason, that the DPP is a professional man. On other occasions, you will have a different DPP who will be political. This came from a police officer, and I continue to salute him. By the time they charged me with sedition, at that point, it had already been declared unconstitutional. You may proceed.
Okay. I want to move this. I want to move this conversation forward.
There was a similar situation. Ssegona, the late Paulo Kauma, 1985.
Yes.
He was charged with an offense whose definition had been amended by Act 10 of 1985.
Edgar, I want to move this conversation forward.
No, I don't want to take Honorable Semjuzi many minutes. But
just Honorable Ssegona was tried for sedition.
Edgar, you're taking us back, please.
On a wrong charge.
Let's move the conversation forward.
2 weeks later, he became the Minister for Internal Affairs.
Edgar, can we move the conversation forward?
I want to give you, I said earlier on that mistakes can be made at the level of people who report intelligence. Collection may be poor, analysis may be poor. I don't want these people to give that it is excluded to them, the opposition. I gave you here the case of 2 ministers, Honorable Maratubo, Honorable Moses Ali.
Ambrose.
Who were actually tried and eventually absolved by court. I want to give you my case. This is the first time I'm going to speak about it. In 1989, I was a lecturer instructor in Chankwanzi. I was accused. They investigated me.
Of killing.
No. They investigated me for ferrying boxes of ammunition. You can imagine from Chankwanzi, a box of ammunition
Tumulanda.
Is like Tutororo. Is like
for Foba.
Is like 50, 70 kilograms that I was taking ammunition from, specifically bullets from Chankwanzi, where I was, to Tororo for Foba, because my father was a very strong UPC man. The person who absolved me was my NPC, the late area Katega. He called me and said, here's a file. You are being suspected
of stealing
ammunition. Why? Do you have anything?
Katege was a lawyer. And
he checked, and he discovered that between 1987 And the time they were accusing me, because of the rebellion in Tororo,
you had not traveled.
I'd never traveled. And the case, the people who investigated me, some of them actually are still alive. But so you cannot prevent the state and its agents from suspecting you and bringing some information. If the system is good, like now I believe in my case, the system was functional. You'll be absolved and you'll be told either at investigation level, prosecution, and that for me, what is important is that there are remedial stages and actions that you can seek redress.
Okay,
all that
let me put the
professional
question to
people
you.
can divorce themselves
yes.
from the position of the desk.
Can I make my point?
Yes, and I want to put a question to you as you give your point.
Yes.
What are the gaps that you see?
Let me first
complete your first thought and then.
You see, at the beginning of this conversation, Mr. Ofono Opondo, and even now, he agrees that this government sometimes has been involved in falsification of information, or some agents of the state for political. I have told you, because the Uganda Kingdom and Uganda were opposed to the Land Act, one of the development arms of Uganda Kingdom was now accused of treason as one way of scaring them out of mobilization. So Mr. Museveni personally, who was accusing Uganda just because they were mobilizing Uganda, what will stop him from accusing another actor of throwing bombs because he wants to stop them? Ofono Opondo, you need to deal with the credibility of the state. Once the credibility of the state is suspected, you don't know how much we suffered during COVID. At the beginning of COVID, in my constituency, I was doing mobilization, but people were telling me, no, they are lying, COVID is not there, COVID is not there, until it killed the people. Why? Credibility of the state and credibility.
Even when Museveni said he had acquired COVID, people were saying the man is plotting some mischief.
But when Semuju had alleged that he had got vaccinations secretively.
But I am not the one that he took to court.
No, but they got the information, I think I strongly believe via you.
So the point is the credibility of the state and credibility of the state actor. But also the processing of information. Because once there is a scare, Ofono Opondo now is blaming his other colleagues with whom they communicate on behalf of government.
Now the Minister of Internal Affairs said he looks at Enanga and says, now this Enanga is lying.
Gentlemen, complete your thought.
Yeah, but most important is that we have failed to build trust. Because where you've seen the opposition, last time we had a debate here, and I think it was Andrew Mwenda. And I told him, you see, in Tanzania, I have seen the opposition going to meet the president in the State House. I have seen that happen in Kenya almost all the time. In Uganda, because of the conduct of the president, it cannot happen. Even a matter where we need to work together. Because of Ofono Opondo, I was working with everybody during COVID. What would stop me from working with everybody when we have such a huge threat?
Okay, let me put a quick question to you as members of parliament. The Parliamentary Committee on Defense and Internal Affairs, and that's what it's called, would get this classified briefing on a threat like this. Does that happen?
I sat on that committee for 2.5 years. I never received, and I not hear that my other colleagues who are NRM also received the briefing. Because you see, the way Mr. Museveni behaves is like the country is his, even security is his.
Okay, let me take a message from...
The other actors, I don't think even thinks that they deserve...
Gentlemen, we need to take
because
a quick break,
this week, on Tuesday, the Speaker of Parliament opened his Parliament with a communication about security. And the demand from her and from the rest of Parliament that we need to be briefed. the Honorable Nakadama, who was standing in for Honorable Nabanya, told Parliament that the Minister of Defense will need a clearance from the President to come and brief you. And up to now, even the Parliament is not briefed.
Because the President was going to address the nation, maybe. Daniel Rugarama says, I want to thank Comrade OO for his balanced and well-reasoned out submission so far. Such coming out from a government mouthpiece gives some of us great hope in that office. And Kenneth Mwangusha is watching us. Kenneth Mwangusha, thank you for watching. I've received your message. Juma Kadri says the government should look into the issues of porous borders. These may facilitate the free movement of these IED explosives. It's high time for Ugandans to become vigilant for their own security. But also, let's take a commercial break and then I'll pick it up after the break. Right back.
NBS Frontline.
Hello, Kampala. This is Sinach.
The legendary Sinach is coming to town on the 8th of September 2023, Lugogo Stadium. Starting at 4 p.m., only 50,000 shillings. VIP, 200,000 shillings. You can pay for your ticket using FlexiPay. Powered by Praise Exchange, Gospel Evolution, making a difference. For more information, please call us on 0708 339 789 or 0787 913 999. Pay or shop with MTN Momo and get cash back every week. It's free of charge.
Olwaleero tugabye pitchi zaffe ebbiri ezisoose nga tuziwadde ba merchants babiri, mukyala Hadija ku petrol station ya Moka, mwami Charles naye tuva kumuwa pitchi ye.
Kituufu mpangudde ne documents zino nzifunye.
I was so surprised when to the petrol station nesangawo nga already MTN yatuuse. Kumbe bino ebintu byo bituufu.
Era kye tubuulira abantu baffe naddala omuntu yenna alina business nti ssaawa zino tugenda tuva mu mbeera eyo ey'okukwata ssente ez'omu mpeke nti buli omu yenna afune kye tuyita merchant code. Tugenze tusomesa abantu ku mugaso gw'obutakwata ssente ez'obuliwo naye nga bazifunire ku ssimu yaabwe. Beera steady, tugaba pin code yo wekka.
Use the Momo app or dial *165*3#.
Better steady, be better.
7 out of 10 of us have lost a substantial amount of money to fraudsters. Money we could have used to pay rent, invest in small businesses, clear fees, or send to mama in the village. Better steady and protect what's yours by being vigilant with your virtual transactions. Keep your PIN to yourself and only take calls from registered customer care numbers in case of telecom issues.
Better steady, be better. In partnership with Uganda Communications Commission, Bank of Uganda, MTN Uganda, Equity, Uganda Bankers Association, Post Bank, United Media, Stanbic Bank, and MTN Momo.
The station that gives you a lot of music. This is
MTN Pulse Radio.
Turn it up. Busted on the radio station.
Feel the pulse.
Good news from Star Times this school holiday. Upgrade your bouquet and stand a chance of winning third-term school fees from Star Times. Family content beautifully packaged to keep your children glued this school holiday. Jim Jam, Baby TV, Cartoon, CBBS, Toonami, NGW, and ST Kids. Simply upgrade or Chigale no win school fees with Star Times promotion.
Watch the live draw on Makula TV Friday to Sunday at 8:50 p.m. starting 25th of August for more details. Upgrade to a stress-free holiday.
NBS Frontline.
You're still watching The Frontline on NBS TV. Kasim Kayira is watching us and on X says, I disagree with Edgar on the Seleka rebels. I spent some time around them and can speak without fear of contradiction that their Islamic dispensation has nothing to do with the fundamental Islam as marketed. Theirs is about being excluded from government and development. Just a minute, let me finish this. Yes, and Ivan Sembusi says he's in Kalerwe. He says he wants to inform Ugandans, fellow Ugandans, that the entire government that terrorism acts are, number one, dangerous because they take life. Those who participate are indoctrinated. They have root causes. They are motivated, and they are controlled and commanded, and they affect and effect the economy. That's Sembusi Ivan. Please go ahead.
So the point I wanted to make last, I didn't hear the full address of the president this evening, but the last part of his address, he was speaking about Muslims and Arabs, the same way Tabaro here was accusing. People have been unfairly profiled. People,
please,
so
can you allow him make his point? You'll have your point.
To define our religion as the way you are defining it. Anyway, don't divert me. So the point I make is that there are people who have given themselves the responsibility of profiling others. When they are working with them, they are not terrorists. When they are not working with them, they are terrorists. I keep asking myself, the Americans who profiled almost every leader in Afghanistan as a terrorist were the same Americans sitting, including with people on whose head they had put millions of dollars in Doha and Qatar. So did they change? Even in Uganda here, Muslims are being arrested from mosques, from madrasa schools. I remember one time we had an interaction with Kayura when he was IGP. And he had been made to believe that all madrasas are teaching terrorists. And I told him I am a product of a madrasa. Sometimes you need to be very cautious when you are. You need to be.
Listen to you from a distance may actually not make a difference between you and the terrorist sympathizer.
Yeah, but this government is run by former terrorists who are throwing bombs in Kampala. At least I have never held a gun, I have never thrown a bomb, I have never killed anyone. But the killers are the ones who are running government of upon.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
So the point I make is we need to be very cautious when we are profiling people as terrorists. Because the Africans, almost all the African leaders, including Obote, was profiling himself as a terrorist. When they have armed rebellion, the convenient thing is to profile them as terrorists and then dismiss them as Islamic fundamentalists and so on and so forth. My appeal, final on this matter, the same way the Americans spoke to Taliban, and I know they are speaking to many other people, Ofano Pondo, why don't you speak to ADF instead of wasting resources? We are now spending close to 90 billion shilling every year financing Operation Shuja. So why don't you go and give ADF 50 billion and you speak to them and that 10 billion ends?
May I just quip an answer? May I just quip an answer to that?
Yeah,
this evening, good enough you said you didn't listen to the president. Actually, the president more than 3 times, and particularly his concluding remarks tonight, appealed to people who are either captives, abductees, people who are being funded, or people who are sponsoring, if they are Ugandans, to renounce, abandon rebellion, and come back. However, he said, at this point, what he would not assure them is that they would benefit from amnesty. He said they could most likely go through the judicial system, even if they are to get harsh punishment.
They will not.
If convicted,
yes, they will not.
They
would be commuted.
And I asked whether he has those powers.
But that's what he said. So it means
prerogative of does not get to that.
No, but it means that the president and the government machinery is open. And that's why the government has never abolished the Amnesty Act. And there is also a line.
I've represented people who have benefited from Amnesty. Yes,
in respect of
ex-ADF.
In respect of which offense?
Only treason. No, listen. There's a line of people who have benefited from government, and indeed President Museveni.
Most of those I knew have actually
only 1 week ago.
Poverty.
The entire family, not the entire, but the bigger family of Joseph Kony, who's in the car in the South African Republic, were evacuated. And in some other former fighters and abductees were evacuated by the Ugandan government.
It was actually facilitated by Honorable Mao.
Back here. So what you're asking for, in my place, we say, don't throw a bone at a dog, because you're actually giving it food.
Okay.
So what you're talking about, you're throwing a bone at a dog because the president has given that offer.
Let me put two specific questions. Different previously opposed armed groups to Museveni.
This conversation
President
is
Museveni.
He needed them to stop
Please allow me.
President Museveni, at all material terms, was in touch with Kony through the Honorable Dr. Martin Alikel. He publishes it in his book.
Edgar, please allow me. We are continuing with this conversation on the Afro mobile app, and the discussion is continuing. And I want to put two specific questions to Edgar and Honorable Ssegona. Honorable Ssegona, from where you stay?
NBS Frontline. Up next. Brought to you by Rock Boom, now in a new bottle with the same taste and same positive energy. Available in a 320 ml PET bottle. Rock Boom, feel the positive energy. This program is rated PG. Parental guidance is advised.
Chosen generation,